Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 80 of Stepping Wild. Tibs sat at a far table facing the door, enjoying the seared meat and vegetables and studying the people in the tavern. He hadn't returned to it on arriving in the village. He'd spent the time helping the refugees, both because they needed help and so there would be people to support his claim of having spent the day helping. There would be a comma here. If Darna, or more likely Rachel, asked what he'd been up to. She knew about Karliak, if not about them being a dungeon. It was where the arrowheads came from. Someone else knew. Karliak had mentioned a time when she hadn't liked finding the arrows in the chest. Ooh, is that still there? Since they couldn't tell people apart, they couldn't tell him what to look for in recognizing that person. Darna? Leon had said she spent time in the forest looking for adventures and muscles, but it had to be when they were younger. Running a tavern didn't leave much time for adventure. But she and Rachel were friends. She could know without having gone to Karliak. Same for Leon, although Tibs had the sense he wouldn't care. Leon's interests were to have fun, mainly by taking people to bed, but also just by playing around. He was often the one entertaining refugee kids with act of juggling and acrobatics. Coral was also tight with that group, although his interest was clearly Leon. They weren't special to each other, but close friends nonetheless. And there was the general closeness of the others in the tavern, based on the general dislike of having the refugees in the village. He didn't think it was enough for Rachel to tell them about Karliak, and if she had, would they keep away? There had been the sense in how Karliak spoke of the visit that it was mostly the same person, with an occasional different one. 2, 3 at most, he thought. But he might be settling on that number because of the 4 close friends. If the dungeon could move his core room, how would Rachel react to the chest vanishing? What did she think it was? A gift from the elements? From metal? Leon dropped into the seat, facing seat. Are you hiding yourself away in a corner? Why are you hiding? Why are you hiding away? You're hiding yourself away in a corner? He asked, chin in his palm and gazing at Tibs. Tibs chuckled, resting from all the people. The young man nodded. All that helping will take a toll on someone. He had put the emphasis on help. Had he put any emphasis on helping? Did he know Tibs had spent most of the day out away? He was seeing suspicions where there weren't any, although he could check. What have you been up to? Oh, betting people. No light on the words. Also, no way to ask further question without having to listen to the details he wasn't interested in or giving away. He was trying to find out something. Where do all the animals come from? Leon raised an eyebrow. I've spent a lot of time in forest while traveling. I've never seen so much of them. He shrugged. The elements, I'm guessing. It's why the first family settled here. They were like you, traveling a lot. When they got here, there were enough kids that feeding them on the move was troublesome. They saw the animals and they settled. Why hide from the cities then? Taxes. As soon as the city was large enough to need other people to do their work, collectors started going along the roads. They heard about them before they arrived, so they moved the road away. Moved the road? Leon shrugged again. It was a long time ago. People were closer to the elements then. Sounds more like a story a bard told you. Leon laughed. My dad told me, and he's no bard. All this singing does is curdle milk. Claims were related to the first family, but I don't believe him, he grinned. Although, for them to have as many kids as the stories claim, they'd have to to enjoy their bed as much as I do. Don't you take that from your mother? True, the grin remained wide, but that just means my dad's not related to them. Tibs chuckled. Leon's nearly unending jovialness was infectious. Tibs spent the next days helping around the tavern in the town. Then, too, with Rachel while she hunted, gathering tubers. Her refusal to let him do so without her protection reinforced his suspicion. She was worried his wandering would lead him to finding the chest. Then, after some time helping the refugees, Tibs headed into the forest. Now that he knew where Carliac was, he saved time by running along the canopy. The chest was in the center of the same clearing, with the same concentration of metal in it. Are you back? Yes. Did someone else come? Yes. When you didn't talk. Again, this doesn't really work. How do I fix this? Okay. Are you back? I can leave it like that. Yes. Did someone else come? That can remain. Yes. This is where I can change that. Yes. They didn't talk with me. Took It took what was in the chest and left, and left, as it always does. He corrected. She felt the same way you do, just not as bright. How much practice until they could distinguish the essence enough to tell people apart? You weren't able to move to your core? I was, they answered with pride. Tibs looked around for sign, then settled under the ground. The location of Kelly Core's room didn't have to match the clearing, only it did. How far did you move? Far enough I won't run out of metal essence anymore. Tibs couldn't sense a difference in the metal essence pockets in the ground. Not that he'd paid attention the previous time. Carliac had said they'd moved their core, so this wasn't just about them stretching their influence. Why is the chest still in the center of the clearing then? That's where it should be. But your core room is still under the clearing, the same as it was the last time. Of course, I moved that too. Why? Tim sensed for signs of Carliac's work, but everything felt natural. How else will anyone find the chest? That's not how it works, he said, unable to keep the exasperation back. Runners have to work for what they get. Okay. But she's a people. But she's a people? I'm going to leave it as a question. Tibs groaned. He needed to remember Carliac knew nothing of what they were. It was so strange that they didn't, that because Simtor also didn't know, they couldn't figure things out. What would have happened to them if Tibs just left? They knew they could move, so they could gather more essence, but how long would that work? Have you observed any animals? They could grow that way. It was how Firmin had gained most of their essence, but they had Merca as a guide of what to do with it. How do I do that? And that answers that. If he taught them how, would they stop with just animals? Could they tell the difference between animal and people? All right. We need to start from the beginning. You, Carliac, are a dungeon. I know what I am, they replied, annoyed. A dungeon, he continued, exists to test those who enter it. Test how? Simtor asked, sounding interested. With traps, creatures, and puzzles. Why? Carliac asked. So they and you can grow stronger. Why? They ask. Because it's what you do. But why? Why do I do that? Why not just make things for them, for those runners? Because you can't sustain that. If you just give, eventually you'll have nothing left. I don't know if you can die that way, but you won't be able to make anything if you always give more than you can get. And if that's all you do, more and more people will come take from you I until I told you to move toward more metal, you were having trouble getting enough just for one person. People have to be afraid of you so they won't come and take it. All come and take. I don't want them to be afraid. I want to help them. But you need to be around to do that. They need to give back to you. And they do that through the test. Yes. Those who can't pass them, you get to absorb. You'll gain some of their essence as well as some of what they know. And that means I can help them more? Yes. Those who pass your test become stronger and you'll be able to sense the density. Become stronger. You'll be able to sense the density of their essence. Like your essence is bright. Will they have as many as you? No, they'll only have one, even that. What were the chances of a runner in the wild finding themselves in the right circumstance to gain an audience? Maybe if Karliak made everything out of wood, there would be enough of a concentration. One of them could have one, but audiences in dungeons broke rules. It kept him from gaining the immunity. Adventurers didn't have that, so how would breaking the rules manifest? Could it mean they couldn't survive their audience? It was best not to risk it. All right, Karliak said. How do I go about making tests? The first step is to stop giving what you make. Giving away what you make. Remove the chest. I can't. Why can't I absorb it? He sounded scared. What are you doing? Are you doing something to it? No, He looked at it, how close he was. Okay, here's a lesson. When people get close to something you've made, it disrupts your ability to affect it. So you need to keep that in mind when you make your rooms. They need to function without your control. He stepped away. Keep trying to absorb it. Tibs was deep enough in the forest. Deep enough in the forest he lost sight of it. Karliak? He called and received no answer. He was outside its influence. That was what, 50 paces? He slowly stepped forward. There you are, Karliak said. He was a few paces outside the clearing, able to see the chest was gone. This is where your influence ends. You can't sense or affect anything past this point. As you grow stronger, that will increase. He looked at how little space it gave Karliak for his first floor. Stowe had been much larger, but he also hadn't been giving away essence to people. He'd been accumulating it, which meant it wasn't absorbing people itself that let a dungeon grow. They were simply a concentrated source of it. And that's going to let me find more essence? They asked eagerly. Yes, and you need more. One of the way you can grow is to accumulate essence. I thought it was by testing runners. That's one way to you gain essence. Absorbing it from what's around you is another. I can do that. Good. The next thing you need to do is remove the clearing. Why? It's too distinctive. When Rachel comes and doesn't find the chest, she's going to wonder what happened. She's going to search and she might dig and find your core room. You need to grow You need to grow trees in the clearing and move your room again. How do I grow trees? How did you remove them? I just moved them away. How? By pushing the earth away with them on it. Okay, then move them back the same way. He felt the essence in the clearing shift, roll through the ground, and pull was the closest word to what he pulls. The closest word to what he sensed. He couldn't see any changes. How long did it take you to move essence away? A lot of changes in level of light essence. They're called days, he said. One day is a cycle of it growing strong, then weak and strong again. It's how we track time. Then it's many days. Once the clearing is covered, move away. He put his back to the village and pointed in that direction. Can you tell where I'm pointing? It is it the essence you're extending? Yes. It was as good of a description as any of it for his extended arm. Keep moving as fast as you're able to. He didn't think the dungeon had moved all that much in the days he'd been away, so should should be able to sense it. I'll come back in a few days and we can start setting up your test. What are you doing? Darla asked, one side of the net Tib made pulling at one side of the net Tibbs made. Just keeping my hands busy. He had trouble coming up with ways to explain the pit trap. That's going to change. A drop tile trap. That could support different weight in ways a dungeon could understand, until he'd realized Karliak would be able to sense items better than understand concept. This would be flawed, but it would be a starting point. You are a strange one, you know that? Tibbs smiled. I've been told that a few times. Tibbs knew Rachel had gone to the chest by her expression when she entered the tavern. Pensive perplexity. She missed Darna calling to her, going to a table and putting her quiver on it, studying the arrowheads. She had plenty more in her pouch, but it was now a limited number. Darna sat with her and the hushed conversation confirmed that she, if no one else, was in the know. She was back behind the bar when Leon entered, and she sent him to Rachel, Coral, when he entered. No one else. So they were the ones. Coral would be the one who hadn't cared for the arrowheads, or maybe Darna, but she was busy enough with the tavern, he didn't think so. Now he just had to hope Karliak was far enough that if they decide to investigate as a group, they wouldn't find the dungeon. And that concludes chapter 80 of Stepping Wild. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is up on Royal Road for free. If you want to read ahead of that, buy about 20 chapters and support me in the process. That is on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.